A single mistake can change a life forever. In a small, crowded café, a tired waitress placed the wrong drink on the table of a man she didn't recognize. He looked ordinary, quiet, just another customer, but he was a billionaire hiding from the world. When he took the first sip, his hands froze. The taste unlocked a memory he had buried for decades, a pain he never healed, and a truth money could not fix. What began as a simple accident became a moment that exposed loneliness, regret, and the power of kindness. This is not just a story about a wrong drink. It's about how one small human mistake can shatter pride, awaken the heart, and change two lives forever. The glass touched the table with a soft, careless sound that should have meant nothing, yet in that moment it felt like the world leaned closer to watch. In a crowded cafe where steam curled from cups and exhaustion clung to every corner, a tired waitress set down a drink meant for someone else in front of a man who owned more buildings than she could count. He lifted it without looking, took the first sip, and everything he believed about his life cracked open at once. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us how a single moment can quietly change everything. The cafe was one of those places people passed every day without ever truly seeing. Its windows were streaked from years of hurried cleanings, and the air always smelled faintly of burnt sugar and coffee grounds. For the waitress, this place was not just a job, but a lifeline stretched thin. She worked double shifts, memorized faces instead of names, and learned to smile in a way that hid how tired her bones felt. Her life had narrowed into survival, rent due, a sick parent at home, and dreams folded away like old receipts at the bottom of an apron pocket. That afternoon, the cafe buzzed louder than usual because a rumor had moved through the staff like electricity. A powerful billionaire investor was rumored to be visiting the block, scouting locations, making decisions that could change entire neighborhoods. No one knew he would walk in here, sit alone by the window, and order a simple drink. The billionaire did not look like the man magazines described. There was no entourage, no show of wealth. He carried himself with the weight of years rather than money, shoulders slightly bent as if the world pressed down on him more heavily than it did on others. He had built an empire after a childhood that taught him hunger, fear, and silence, and though success followed him everywhere, peace never did. His days were filled with meetings and numbers, his nights with insomnia and the echo of choices made too quickly. He came into the cafe not to be seen, but to disappear for a moment, to drink something warm and remind himself that ordinary life still existed. Behind the counter, the waitress moved on autopilot, orders stacked in her mind, hands reaching for cups before her thoughts could catch up. One drink required careful preparation, something special she had made earlier for a regular customer who trusted only her with it. It was not fancy, just a simple blend adjusted with care, meant to soothe a body worn down by years of pain. When the billionaire's order came through, the rush blurred everything. Cups were lined up, steam rose. A moment slipped, the wrong glass was placed in the wrong hands. The first sip stopped him mid-motion. It was not the taste alone, though it was unexpected. It was the way the flavor opened a door he had spent decades barricading. The warmth spread through him differently, not sharp like coffee, not bitter like the drinks he usually chose. It was gentle, familiar, and terrifying. In an instant, he was no longer a billionaire sitting by a cafe window, but a boy in a small kitchen, watching his mother carefully prepare something similar when money was short and illness long. That drink had been her way of loving him when words failed, a ritual that disappeared the day she never came home from work. He had buried that memory under layers of ambition, convincing himself that success would fill the hollow place she left behind. His hands trembled slightly as he set the glass down. Something else stirred beneath the memory, something physical. His chest loosened, his breathing steadied in a way it had not for years. He had been ignoring warning signs from his body, masking pain with discipline and denial. This drink never meant for him, revealed how tightly he had been holding himself together and how close he was to breaking. It was not just nostalgia he tasted. It was a reminder of vulnerability, of care, of the human cost of living without pause. Across the room, the waitress realized her mistake the moment she saw the glass in his hand. Panic flared, sharp and immediate. A simple error could cost her job, and she could not afford to lose it. Her heart pounded as she weighed whether to rush over or pretend not to notice. Fear won for a moment, and she kept working, eyes flicking back to him again and again. She noticed the way his posture changed, the way his expression softened into something almost painful. This was not the reaction of someone annoyed by a wrong order. It was the reaction of someone unraveling quietly. The café noise faded around him as he sat there, wrestling with the unexpected truth rising inside. He had built walls so high that even he could not see over them anymore, and yet one careless sip had climbed right through. He realized how little he allowed himself to feel, how every decision had been about control, distance, safety. The drink did not just remind him of his past. It revealed how starved he was for genuine human connection. For the first time in years, he felt tears threaten, and the sensation frightened him more than any business risk ever had. Eventually, responsibility pulled him back to the present. He looked around, noticing the café with fresh eyes. He saw the chipped tables, the tired staff, the waitress whose hands shook as she worked through the rush. When she finally approached, bracing herself for anger, she found none waiting for her. Instead, she encountered a man deeply unsettled in a way money could not fix. Her apology spilled out clumsily, heavy with fear and shame, and in that moment her own exhaustion became visible. She was not careless, she was overwhelmed. The mistake became a conversation without words, an understanding formed through glances and silence. He learned, not through questioning, but through observation, what her life looked like. The way she counted tips carefully, the way she flinched when a manager glanced her way, the way hope flickered and dimmed behind her eyes. He recognized that look because he had once worn it himself. Success had not erased his past, it had only distanced him from people still living inside that struggle. After he left the cafe, the drink followed him in ways he did not expect. His body felt different, lighter, and the emotional impact lingered like a bruise pressed too hard. That evening, instead of another meeting, he sat alone and let the memories come. He remembered promises he made to himself as a child, vows to never forget where he came from, to help others once he could. Somewhere along the way, he had replaced those promises with numbers and deals, convincing himself that indirect impact was enough. For the waitress, the hours after his departure crawled by under the weight of dread. She expected a complaint, a call from management, consequences she could not escape. Instead, days passed with nothing. She told herself she had gotten lucky, but the feeling would not settle. Something about his expression stayed with her, a sense that the mistake had mattered in a way she did not understand. Life returned to its usual rhythm of fatigue and quiet resilience, yet a strange thread of anticipation tugged at her. Change came without announcement. The cafe was suddenly included in conversations about redevelopment, investment, improvement rather than demolition. Repairs were made, hours stabilized, wages increased. The neighborhood felt a cautious sense of relief, as if a storm had shifted course at the last moment. The waitress watched it all unfold with disbelief, unaware of how closely her mistake was tied to this transformation. The billionaire did not forget her, or the drink, or the way his life had cracked open for a moment in that cafe. He began to seek out places like it, not as a savior but as a listener. He changed how he invested, focusing on people as much as profit. He addressed his health, his grief, and the loneliness he had mistaken for strength. That single sip had revealed the truth he had been avoiding, that success without connection was just another form of emptiness. Near the end of this story, if you feel your heart tightening just a little, take a moment to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel, because these stories only live on when they are felt and passed forward. Months later, when their paths crossed again, it was not marked by grand gestures or dramatic revelations. It was a quiet recognition, a mutual understanding that something small had shifted something vast. She stood a little taller, carrying herself with renewed confidence as opportunities slowly opened. He looked lighter, more present, a man learning to live instead of merely endure. Neither needed to explain what had happened, because some truths do not need words to exist. Before the story ends, take a moment to comment below and share what this story made you feel, because your words keep these moments alive beyond the screen. The drink was never meant for him, yet it arrived at the exact moment he needed it most. A careless mistake became a mirror, reflecting lives on opposite sides of wealth and struggle, reminding both that humanity runs deeper than status. In a world obsessed with intention and control, it was an accident that restored compassion, healed old wounds, and quietly changed the direction of two lives forever.